Hey there. Today I wanted to go over the new LiveU Solo Pro, and no, that is not a LiveU Solo Pro. That is the original LiveU, which so you're now going and thinking like another one that doesn't have the actual LiveU Solo Pro in hand. Well, I can assure you I have. And it is quite a bit bigger than the original one. Now what we can do is we can actually, first things first, I show the difference in size. So plug the modems out. This is not a review. My aim with this video is to clear up a few misunderstandings that have come from poor communication, things like that from LiveU, where people got the notion that, for example, the LiveU Solo Pro would have modems built in. It does not. There are connectors, they are blind. There is no modems built into the LiveU Solo Pro at all. So what you actually get, just get this, as usual, this is a bit annoying. So we put this aside. It's great. Plug the modems back. Actually, we don't need the modems. That's okay. We are on the local Wi-Fi. So what comes in the package? Same thing here. So you'll plug the modems out. Plug the HDMI out. Much easier to get out of the bag. Also a bit more worn in. Plug the HDMI back in again. I don't need the modems. What comes in the bag? The LiveU Solo Pro, and as you can see, it is considerably bigger than the original one. This little sleeve here, 2 USB cables, angled USB cables, a carrying strip, 3 power leads, 1 for continental Europe, 1 for the US, and 1 for UK Ireland. A USB-C PD power brick, which is new. The original Solo was powered with a 12 volt 3 amp power supply with a 5.5 millimeter barrel jack. So this changes a lot of things. This cable retainer clip, that's the same as it was with the original LiveU Solo. A HDMI extension cable to protect your HDMI port. You can use that. And power solutions. I used to use this, for example, this 25 amp Crestonia battery pack that has DC out, so I could get 12 volt DC out. I used that to give some extra juice to my LiveU Solo. That's a very good power bank. The reason why I picked this one, it's under 100 watt hours, which means that it is within the limitations of the TSA regulations, so you can take it on a plane. And that was always an important thing for me. Now with the this predates USB-C PD, so it will actually not work with the new one at all. What I have instead is a 26,800 milliamp hour Anker USB-C PD power pack. The USB-C PD port is rated 45 watts, which is what the LiveU Solo requires. To be precisely the profile that you're looking for when you look for a power bank to charge the LiveU Solo Pro is you're looking for the 15 volt 3 amp profile. That's what the power bank has to do. Again, this is within the 100 watt hour TSA flight limitations. So you can take a couple of these packs with you. If they were any bigger than this, then you would be severely limited on some planes, and some you wouldn't even get the battery pack out. They would simply confiscate it. LiveU touted that this will take 4 modems, so 6 connections. So 4 modems, Wi-Fi and LAN. But there are only 2 USB ports, and we only get 2 angled USB cables. So the way that's going to work is that LiveU sells a backpack for the LiveU Solo Pro. And with that backpack, you will get USB-Y cables. So with the USB-Y cables, you can then have 2 modems on each USB port on the LiveU Solo Pro. The problem is that does not work yet. It will come in firmware. I'm not sure if it comes in firmware 9.7.1 or in a later one. They are talking about that there's a firmware update that's coming that will allow you then to have 4 modems on the LiveU Solo Pro. At the moment, you don't. Now, there are connectors here on the side. Under here, from SIM cards, they are blank. This is because this casing is from one of the bigger models. I think it's the LiVU 800. So it's the same casing, they just reused it. And so these connectors are all blank. So that's no good. There is an SDI version of this. I have only the HDMI version. With the SDI version, you get both the HDMI and the SDI port, as far as I know. So that's a good thing. On this side, so you have one USB port on this side, another USB port, your LAN port, and then your USB-C plug for your power supply. So 15 volt, 3 amp, 45 watt. You can use any generic USB-C PD appliance to power this, as long as it has that profile. And the reason I have these HDMI cables lying around here is because I've actually set up a little stream. So we can go live with these. Let's see. Yeah, we want to connecting. Okay, do the same thing here. Please check camera connection. Okay.
2,000 years later.
So they are basically, both of them are now ramping up. In essence, the control surface of the LiveU and the LiveU Solo Pro, so LiveU Solo, are very, very similar. You have your button here and you have your play power button. And it's the same here. The power button is now down here. There's a return button. The buttons are a lot better. These were like rubber buttons. These are like more like a hard plastic button here. This protrudes, and this is, it feels better. It weighs a good bit more. So there's that. And the new LiveU Solo Pro is also a bit more power hungry. Now, the misconceptions I'm talking about. So one of them was people expected that there was modems in this LiveU Solo Pro, and there isn't. There is no modems in there. So you will have to have 4 external modems. In many ways that makes sense, because what it means is that you have the ability to upgrade your modem. So as we get into, at the moment there's 4G, there's 5G, but eventually there will be 6G or 7G. And you don't want to replace your encoder every time something new comes. So that's the one thing. The other big upgrade that we got with the LiveU Solo is that the LiveU Solo Pro now does 4K. It also does H.265 HEV, which means lower data consumption. And when I look, for example, right now at the stream here, I'm running about 7,000 to 7,500 kbps out of the old one, while I'm running 4,800 out of the new one. And they both set up for 1080p 30 at the moment. So that's basically what they are streaming. So there's a good bit of data saving there. And especially if you're in an area with bad connection, you're more likely to survive. The other thing is that, for example, on H.264, your picture will basically get very, very blocky and fall apart when you go below 2000 bitrate. With H.265, your picture will actually still be fairly sharp all the way down to 300. And that is one of the big upgrades that we're getting with this. Now, to facilitate H.265, so LiveU have implemented SRT, so Secure Reliable Transport. It's a transmission protocol that has established itself over the last couple of years and matured quite a lot. It's actually being used in broadcast quite a bit now. The reason they had to do that is because RTMP predates H.265. So there is no facility for adding H.265 to RTMP. So the protocol change had to be made. Obviously, the LiveU Solo Pro still does support RTMP, but you're limited to H.264 with that as far as I've seen. And the good news for existing LiveU Solo users is that SRT will also come to the LiveU Solo. The misconception again is you're not going to save data, because the LiveU Solo, the original one, cannot accommodate H.265. It doesn't have the processing power nor the electronics to do it, which means all you're getting is a protocol upgrade. But when you stream on SRT, and that's also scheduled for the end of January, when SRT comes to the original LiveU Solo, it will be using H.264. Your data saving is not in SRT, your data saving is in the codec, and you don't have that on LiveU Solo. So if you need the data saving, the LiveU Solo Pro is the way forward for that. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And that's often what people don't understand. And the other thing is then when we come to the point of broadcasting in 4K, you want that data saving. Now, the LiveU Solo Pro is capable of up to 20 megabit bit rates for video. So you can actually also broadcast 4K in H.264. But it is very, very recommended to do it in H.265, just for the saving. Data gets very, very quickly saturated, especially if you're at a venue where there's multiple news outlets or other broadcasters or whatever. And by having the ability of, first of all, scaling your bitrate way down, that way you can actually then get to maybe survive and get your stream out, while others on the older technology can't. Also, one thing to keep in mind, SRT is provided by LiveU through the Elastic Cloud, which means you need to have an LRT subscription to get SRT, even on the original LiveU Solo. It hasn't been implemented in the way that they did with RTMP, where you can use the LiveU Solo without an LRT subscription with a single modem if you only do RTMP. I mean, you can still do that, and you can also do that on LiveU Solo Pro. But to get SRT, you will need the full subscription. So I've set up a little demo here. We have both encoders running, they're both streaming. So you can see the bitrate differences, and also I have a bit of a failover setup. So at the moment, you see the two screens. So the top right, that's my LiveU Solo, the original one. And then the bottom left is the LiveU Solo Pro. It's streaming SRT and H.265. So if you look at the right hand side of the screen, you can see the switcher. And it also shows you the bit rates that each of the two encoders is pushing in. So now if I go and I stop the stream on the LiveU Solo, 2 presses, and it stops the stream, and then within 10 seconds after that it will fail over. So we'll just give that the 10 seconds there. And it has failed over to the LiveU Solo Pro output now. So that's great. We'll start this again. You can see there's obviously a clear delay between my voice and what you see on the broadcaster, on the OBS, and that's from the live transmission to the LIT cloud and then all the way into my OBS. Now it is actually they're both an LRT. I have no modems on this, but I have actually LRT enabled on the LiveU Solo also. So what we do then is we stop this one. And wait the 10 seconds here. So there it went offline. The switcher is now looking at the stream and says like, nah, that's gone. Gone, baby. So yeah, and then switched over to the LiveU Solo, the original one. That's the view from that. We get the Solo Pro up and running again. It has picked up, and if we have both streams up and running again there. The LiveU Solo Pro sometimes takes a bit before it kicks in when you're running SRT. So that's something I figure that LiveU will still be tweaking in firmware. This is a very early firmware. I'm on 9.7.0 at the moment, which is the firmware. It doesn't even support the 4 modems at this point, but that should be coming. There was a new version due on December 26th. We have the December 30th now. That new version has not dropped yet, so I reckon they might delay it into the start of January. So just going through the portal here to show how things are working out. One of the things is that now there's a couple new zones in here, and the original format was something like, if you go up here, you have AP, India, Singapore, you have EMEA, EU Frankfurt, EU Ireland, EU London, things like that. Those are the original RTMP zones. Now, LiveU have added a few more zones to it. Now you have UK London, you have EU, you have, not that one, you have Brazil, Sao Paulo, you have, let's see here, so there's EU Frankfurt is an original zone, and then there is, if you go down, there's Germany Frankfurt, that's an SRT zone. So if they are sort of region and then country, or region and city, then they are RTMP only. So if you want to stream SRT, you need to pick one that is country, city. That's the ones that are enabled. In Europe at the moment, we only have UK London and Germany Frankfurt. And going at the destination here, the new thing is SRT is here. It's this gray logo, that's what you want. That will not show up if you have an original LiveU Solo, so you won't have that. You can put in your destination name. You can choose your frame rate and your resolution that you want. It defaults to 720p 60 for some reason, don't know. You set your primary URL, which is the SRT : / the domain name : and then the port. The stream ID, even if your server doesn't have a stream ID, you need to set something, but it will be ignored, so it's fine. Default is 500 milliseconds. And on this LiveU Solo Pro, you have obviously now this, the choice of H.265. Additionally, if you click down here, you can actually set a maximum threshold for the bitrate. So you could, for example, limit your stream to 2000 or 3000 bitrate if you wanted to. So that's nice. And you can also change some things like frame rates and audio bitrate and things like that. So that's basically what that is. Everything else is as it used to be. You have all your stream types here, and then here down here at the bottom you have your saved streaming destinations, so you can go back to them. So that's basically what that is. Okay, so yeah, the upsides and the downsides. Start with the downsides of the LiveU Solo Pro. Weight. It also chews through the battery. From what I've seen from short testing so far, it chews through batteries a bit quicker than the original one. Even though the pack might be a bit bigger, it uses a good bit more power. And then obviously weight. Because it's bigger battery, more weight. So that's the 3 downsides that you get. On the upside, you get a unit that's much more refined. You get SRT, which will come to the LiveU Solo, the original one. You get H.265, which will not come to the original one. You get the capability of streaming up to 4K, which obviously is also future-proofing your setup. Overall, the unit just feels like a much better product. The LiveU Solo, the original one, is getting quite old, so it was due this upgrade. And I only have had this 2 days, so I haven't thoroughly tested it yet. I still have some kinks to work out, and so there will be a full comprehensive review sometime in the end of January or start of February. Until then, keep streaming, and see you in another one.